When I talk about my prison experience, people often ask me, weren't you scared? Weren't you scared to be locked up? Weren't you scared to be in with people who had committed the kinds of crimes, violence, murder, shooting people in the face with sawed-off shotguns? Weren't you afraid? Weren't you afraid they'd do it to you? And I've been asked it so many times that I kind of started to wonder why I wasn't more afraid. Why it didn't seem like such a terrifying or even abnormal thing to live in prison with all the men who had done all the things that all of us had done. So I started thinking about fear and feeling what fear had been in my life. I'd lived with fear all my life. When I was probably 7, 8 years old, something like that. For many nights, I don't remember all the details, but for many nights I lay in bed afraid that I was going to die or afraid of death. And a few years later, or maybe as short as a year later, I don't remember the exact timing, my father died. And the night that he died, I was terrified that I was going to die with him. I could feel something trying to leave my body, and I just held on for dear life. I said, no, I don't want to die. It's not time for me. It wasn't that articulate, but I just held on. When I was a teenager, I was painfully shy, just painfully shy, and wanting desperately to be in relationship, wanting to have a girlfriend, wanting to have the whole 9 yards. But I was so scared to ask a girl for a date or even to talk, to a girl, to risk that fear, to feel that fear. Fear of what? Fear of rejection, fear that she would say no, fear that she wouldn't like me, whatever. So the fear was so strong that as lonely as I felt, as on my own, as much as I felt like I wanted to share, I wouldn't take that risk. And then years later, when I was a performer, I did a one-man show. And every single time I went on stage, I was afraid that I would forget the story, afraid that I would mess up, afraid they wouldn't like me, whatever. And I didn't even really notice all these fears, silly little fears and big ones. I remember I would get in the car driving somewhere I didn't know. I'd be afraid that I would get lost. So I would get lost. But the fear was, I didn't even really identify it all the time as fear. It was just this kind of nagging feeling that was there all the time in my life for as long as I could remember. And then when the shit really hit the fan in my life, it was almost like every fear that I had been running away from, every fear that I had tried so hard to keep one step ahead of or to avoid having to feel, everything caught up with me. Everything, every fear I could imagine was right in my face. And so there was no escaping it. There was no getting away. There was no hiding from it. There was no distracting myself. I was a failure. I had done the stupidest thing that I could imagine. Lots of people hated me. Lots of people didn't like me. Lots of people left me. I lost countless friends and a whole community and my so-called good name and all these kind of ephemeral phantom fears that I'd had. Oh no, what if that happened? If that happened, that would be terrible. Suddenly, they all happened. And here I was. And I would sit at the dining hall and with the guy who was at the shot caller at the table where I sat when I first got there. He fancied himself a shot caller, although there wasn't really a shot caller of the table, but he considered himself that. And I found out that from somebody else, that his crime was he had shot somebody in the face with a sawed-off shotgun as part of a motorcycle gang. But I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of being locked up. I wasn't even afraid of being by myself anymore. I wasn't afraid when we were locked in for the day, when the guards had a party or there was a staff meeting or there'd been a fight on the compound and we were locked up for the day or sometimes for days. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of anything external. And suddenly I wasn't afraid of all these internal phantoms that had been chasing me all my life. I wasn't afraid that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't even trying to be good enough anymore. What the hell is good enough? Suddenly all these things didn't mean anything. And slowly, gradually, over time, I began to realize that all these fears that had been chasing me all my life, that had seemed so real, that had seemed like life or death, seemed like something terrible would happen to me if this fear were actually to come to pass. When they did come to pass, I realized, oh my God, they're phantoms. It's like the monster under the bed. Everything that I was afraid of, everything that I had been running from had happened. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of going back to the community. Well, sometimes I was a little afraid of going back to the community and having to face things. But what was different was that now that all these fears had overcome me and kind of consumed me, and I had allowed them to just be there, not that I really had much choice, but I had allowed them to be there, and they hadn't killed me. They hadn't even been, when I stopped to feel them, they hadn't actually even been all that terrible. I just, okay, so I'm not the person I thought I was. I don't have the life I thought I did. But here I am. What is this life? All the things that I had been running from, they kind of poofed like smoke. And it was gradual. It wasn't sudden, but I was not afraid. And if I did feel, I realized two things. I realized that most of the things that I had been afraid of, deathly afraid of, were about as real as the monster under the bed. And the second thing I realized is, for me, almost everything I felt afraid of had already happened. It was already over. My father had died, and I had survived that. He wasn't going to die again. That fear was gone, but the fear of death had lingered. The fear of being rejected, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of failure, all these fears. I stopped being afraid of them. Even if I felt the fear, I'd say, okay, so there's some fear left in my body. It's a fear of something that already happened. So I'll just stay with the fear. I'll just feel it. I'll just let it be here. I won't spend all my life energy trying to run away from it or trying to distract myself from it. And so the fear, we think of getting over fear or conquering our fears as some great masculine, macho thing that we do. Oh, I was so brave. And it wasn't like that at all. It was like this big, scary, inflatable phantom just collapsed. And there was nothing but this formless little piece of fabric left. So I laughed. I relaxed. I lived. I related to people. I made friends and I lost friends. I was kind to people. I got mad at people. I wasn't afraid of whatever anybody could do to me anymore because the worst had already happened. And the liberation in that was both subtle and profound. I could live in a place where fear had plenty of places to hang its hat. Dangerous men trapped in a whole community of murderers and rapists and drug dealers and gang members. If I had been afraid, there was plenty of places to put it. But the fear dissolved slowly. And I was free to live in this place where fear should have been, by my old standards, should have been greater than ever. And it was barely there at all. It had been a phantom all along. And any fear that was left, based on what I now knew, I could simply face it. I could follow it all the way to its roots until it didn't scare me any longer. As long as I was running away, the fear had me. When I stopped running, when I stopped being able to run, when there was no chance of getting away, the fear was revealed to be nothing but a phantom, nothing but a little wisp of smoke, nothing that could hurt me anymore. Thank you for listening. If you like these, I'm not sure how many more of these prison videos I will do. We will see. I don't want to turn into one of those mystery writers who writes one good mystery and then writes 600 of them because they just want to keep it going. But if you like these and you appreciate hearing about this stuff, please do feel free to like and subscribe. Please do comment. I love to hear from you. I love to hear what this sparks in you. I love to hear what is meaningful for you about this or what you don't agree with. So thanks for listening. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.